What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, consider hitting that subscribe button for the latest in movies, TV shows with a sprinkle of anime and gaming. My name is Leo, and here at Geekly Goods, we believe in building a community of like-minded individuals to talk about this together. Let's dive into the Mandalorian Season 2 episode ranking, though, starting with number 8, The Passenger. Now, this wasn't a horrible episode by any means. It wasn't an episode that would drive me to not watch the show. However, I just thought it came up the weakest out of most of the episodes, and even though there was great concept by Ralph McQuarrie brought to life in those spiders, I still didn't quite think this was great when measured up with the other episodes. I did really like those spider designs though, and the last third of the episode really does give you that creepy feeling. Now, this was directed by Peyton Reed, who is actually higher on the ranking list for me as well, so a little bit ironic there. But let's move on to spot number 7, and that goes to The Siege. This was directed by Carl Weathers, and there's nothing wrong with this episode. Again, another good episode, but just when measured up with the rest of the series, it doesn't quite hold up for me. But there are some great action sequences, especially in that chase where Cara Dune, Carl Weathers' character, and another character are all running away from the Empire in those TIE fighters. That was such a great action sequence, and I love what Carl Weathers did with this episode when he gave us Baby Yoda eating those cute cookies. Oh, so cute! And this episode is just really fun, and it goes by pretty quickly. I like this episode, but again, just doesn't quite fit into the top 3 for me. Now, moving on with spot number 6, I'm going with The Marshal. This is the first episode of season 2. I don't expect it to be in that top 3 by any means, just due to all the crazy things that happened this season, but it did introduce us back to Mando. It did give us Timothy Oliphant's awesome character in Cobb Vanth, and we saw him first in the Boba Fett armor, so we knew we were gonna get some Boba later in the season. However, I would have loved to see him show back up. I was like, dude, The Marshal was cool. I liked Cobb Vanth's character a lot. I thought he grabbed that armor, and when he got it, I almost wanted to see him in it one more time until I saw Boba Fett in it. However, I did want to see his character just one more time. This episode was just a little generic, but directed by Jon Favreau. You know he had to get some Iron Man in there, so I love that scene where Mando actually shoots his rocket and walks away from the explosion. I thought that was perfect. It's Iron Man 1 again, so I love that reference in the episode, and this episode is a good episode just like the rest of them, but it doesn't quite crack that top 3. Let's move on to number 5, and that's The Heiress, directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, who actually directed my least favorite episode in the first season, but this was a huge step up, in my opinion, from last season. I love getting to see Bo-Katan in the live-action Star Wars lore, and she was brought into it perfectly. I mean, Katie Sackhoff actually voices her character in the Clone Wars, so it was great to see her transition to the live-action character herself and look and feel and speak exactly like Bo-Katan. It was awesome. It's good that her character in Clone Wars looks like her, so this transition was seamless. I loved it. I liked the introduction of her, Sasha Banks, and the male Mandalorian, although it's a little weird that we didn't see him again, but maybe rest in peace, who knows? But I liked this episode a lot. I thought there were some great action sequences, especially when they took over that Empire ship. I thought that was an excellent action sequence, and it really threw Mando's philosophies into question because he had the way, and the way that his Mandalorian creed had taught him wasn't the actual way that all Mandalorians behave, and he learned this, and it brought a lot of questionable things to his character. You know, do I need to follow this creed to a T, even if it's destroying me on the inside? So I love what this brought to Mando as a character, and I just really enjoyed this episode. Bryce Dallas Howard, great episode. Moving on to number 4 with The Believer. When Mando and Mayfeld team up, it is a chef's kiss to the series and to that duo of characters, but I also love the dynamic when the action is ramped down, when they get a little bit of time to actually speak to one another and figure out we have some more things in common than we thought. And I like that this episode takes a little bit of time to spell out Mayfeld as a character and who he is. I just really like this episode's action sequences. I like the moments in between, and I just love the moment when they're sitting down with that Empire general and he says, "Long live the Empire," and Mayfeld just takes out his blaster and zaps them when they're supposed to be in disguise. And not to mention Mando removing his helmet as a little preview to what we're gonna get the next episode. Great episode. I think if it would have had Grogu, I would have actually put this episode a little bit higher and had that in the top 3. Now let's get into that top 3 and start starting with number 3, The Tragedy with Robert Rodriguez, a fantastically directed episode because guess what, guys? We finally get some Boba Fett action in this episode. It was awesome to see Boba Fett actually lay out some stormtroopers, something that we didn't get to see in the original trilogy. He's just a guy with a cool jetpack and a blaster, and we never got to see what he could actually do in full capacity. And here we are. We finally get to see him and he's mastered all the combat of Mando's and his training. And what's so cool is he's doing it while sporting a dad bod. And I actually like that. Mandalorian is introducing some body positivity for guys. So I love this episode. Boba Fett was great. Fennec was great. The team up was great. And it was cool to see Grogu meditating and actually communicating with another Jedi. But what was so sad is to see him separated from Mando. That was a real tragedy, that's for sure. I remember seeing that title card come up and my heart dropped and my heart sank throughout the episode the more I realized Mando wasn't with Grogu. He wasn't with his son. So that was a tragedy. This episode was named perfectly. Robert Rodriguez did a great job. Now let's move on to number 2, The Jedi. Oh my gosh, talk about a phenomenal episode. You know, after The Heiress, this series just got better and better and better every single episode, but The Jedi, bringing in Ahsoka Tano to live action is just an ode to all of us fans who enjoyed the Clone Wars and have followed the Clone Wars since its inception. And we have loved this character and seeing her grow. And this was just a fantastic episode to witness that arc and witness her actually become the adult Jedi we have so much wanted her to be, or adult Force user, because I can't quite call her a Jedi. She's not quite on the light side or the dark, but she does do good deeds. And this was just such a great episode. The fight choreography Ahsoka did and Dave Filoni's attention to detail with his character was just so evident here. And Rosario Dawson was incredible as the character. She finally matured. She reached that arc where she was finally at peace with the Force, and it was just so incredible to witness. And the dual lightsaber combat, I mean, that was just so cool. I wish we got some more, and I wish we got to see Ahsoka one more time this season. This episode was just phenomenal, just fantastic. Honestly, it was almost my number 1, if not for what had happened in my number 1 in the last 10-15 minutes of the episode. The Jedi might have come in number 1 for me because it was just so cool to see this character finally make her art. And now, without further ado, I'm sure nobody's really surprised, but my number 1 episode is The Rescue. It takes all the elements, in my opinion, of the other episodes, the great elements, and really puts them all in this episode. You've got a great pacing, like the episode with Bill Burr's character had. You had these moments that were ramped up, and then you had the ones that kind of gave us a breath for a little bit of dialogue between characters. You had this cool all-female team laying out stormtroopers and clearing the way for Mando. You had Mando versus Gideon. That was such a great moment. The fight choreography was well choreographed, and it was just so cool to see Staff versus Saber. I really enjoyed that moment because it was so emotional and meant so much for Mando to defeat Moff Gideon. And he defeated him and got the Darksaber. So, I mean, hey, our boy Mando is the Mandalorian now. But this cannot be as great of an episode as it was without mentioning the fantastic final 10 minutes of this episode. We see an X-Wing dock into the ship, and out of that X-Wing comes a hooded figure. We don't see a lightsaber for about 5 seconds, but this hooded figure kind of surveys the area. We see him pull out a lightsaber, this awesome, just one lightsaber. And when you see a hooded figure pull out one lightsaber instead of 2, you know it's not Ahsoka. And you see that green lightsaber, that black gloved hand, and you realize it's Luke freaking Skywalker. The Luke Skywalker from the Return of the Jedi, or from a few years, you know, a few years ahead of the Return of the Jedi. That younger Luke Skywalker with the CGI face, which I didn't think was too bad. A lot of people had a lot of trash and bash to say about the CG, but I didn't think it was horrible. I think I was just hyped and full of adrenaline from the moment that I didn't really even focus on it. But I loved bringing Luke back into the fray, even for just a tiny cameo to come and get Grogu. Oh, and not to mention Luke's awesome Force Crush. It seems like the Force choke that Vader uses, and when he comes down the hallway, it's basically the same choreography as Rogue One when Vader was going down the hallway taking down rebels. He was taking down those Dark Troopers like they weren't nothing. So that was so cool to get an action sequence with Luke Skywalker. But then right after, we realize Din and Grogu go their separate ways, and it was just such a beautiful moment to see Din remove the helmet and look Grogu right in the eyes. He did exactly what Anakin Skywalker did before his death. He said, let me remove my helmet so I can see you with my own eyes. And it was just an incredible, beautiful moment, and such a sad moment too, because we've got to get our guys back together. They're the dynamic duo. Grogu and Din, they can't be separated. So I'm looking forward to next season, looking forward to seeing Grogu maybe sneak away from the Jedi Temple. Maybe Mando goes there. I am looking forward to so much more, and I honestly don't think they're gonna split the duo up for good. They gotta come back together, but what a fantastic episode, and it was directed by Peyton Reed, who actually directed the episode I liked the least, so crazy irony there. But I absolutely love the season of The Mandalorian. I thought it was a fantastic season overall, and I thought there were so many phenomenal moments from all trilogies of Star Wars. From the original trilogy, you got Luke Skywalker, and you got the look and the feel and the practical effects. All in all, I thought this was a fantastic season of The Mandalorian. I'm looking forward to season 3, and let's be real, guys. They gotta bring our Jedi back. They gotta bring Ahsoka back, Luke back. Ahsoka's getting her own series. Boba's getting a spin-off book. There are going to be so many spin-offs that this is going to essentially be like Marvel and connect at the seams. But guys, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And as always, be sure to hit that subscribe button, ding that bell for the notifications down there, and let's build a community together and let's talk geek, guys. We will see you next time on Geekly Goods.